All right.
So, hi, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. Could you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Decoda Davis. I live in Hackensack. Um, yeah, and I'm a grant writer as a profession right now.
Awesome. And could you tell me how does the LGBT community relate to you? Oh, I lost your video. There you
Oh, it was I need to charge. But what was the question? What is what?
go. How does the LGBT community relate to you?
How does it relate to me? Well, I consider myself an ally, first off. Um, but I do have a couple of friends and persons really dear to my heart that are members of the LGBT community. Um, yeah, and just I just think it affects any way I can say it affects me would affect anyone else. You know what I mean? Because we live in just like a multicultural, multifaceted type of environment, and I just think as anybody living in a contemporary world, it's kind of hard to isolate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You are going to interact with persons who are LGBT in some type of way, and we're learning even more about it and the fluidity of just the spectrum. So it's for me, it's just as an ally, like I'm just completely open to people being able to live life like they want to,
Yeah.
and I'm definitely um, a supporter and a proponent of that type of inclusive type of community.
Yeah. And so, I guess the question is, how do you feel about the fact that there is no LGBTQ center in Bergen County?
Um, I feel like it's doing a disjustice for like a group of persons who I think need the help. I like, and even as I talk about like today and being contemporary and it's 2021, legalization of LGBT marriages was like what 5 years ago, and just the growth of how things change for this group in particular, I just think is reasonably slow. And generally speaking, any minority, quote unquote, has their own struggle, and it takes time for them to get there. And I think um, one of the reasons why the LGBTQ community couldn't are probably not where I think they could be in terms of that accepting of a minority into a big population is because of stuff like not having research centers to like direct persons and deal with things. Because I know even the issue of coming out is still an issue for people as much as we think it's 2021 and it's normal. Like I have friends who, their parents grew up and they're like, oh, um I hate gay people and stuff like that, and then that was before they knew themselves to be like that, and then they have this inherent fear in dealing with their parents or in dealing with other persons who might think the same way that their parents do. And I think the resource center would be able to direct them to groups, direct them to counseling, you know what I mean? And I've interacted with different people over the years that have peculiar needs. Like when I go to ask somebody about homelessness, right? They want to look into like my background and socioeconomic stuff and stuff on paper that if you're being put out of your house for your sexuality and what you believe, that doesn't qualify. And then what? You don't qualify for this assistance, you know what I mean? Because yeah, you have the money, you just, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
I think it needs to be more consideration of the specific needs of this group moving forward that I think would definitely be addressed in a resource center. Because I imagine there's probably groups and stuff that do this type of support that people don't even know about. And that's the point of a resource center, right? Directing
Yeah.
people to the resources. So I could definitely see how beneficial that would be. Because I mean, I know even as a Black person, if there was ever like a Black person resource center, I would be there 24/7 because on a daily basis, I'm faced with challenges that I'm only faced with technically because I am a Black person. So the same thing for an LGBT person, right? Like you don't realize how issues matriculate into their lives, being who they are. So I definitely think a resource center would help, and bring a lot of benefit to a lot of people, not to mention probably making more allies, because I imagine the resource center would quell like stereotypes and certain stuff that people believe and that type of thing, to really give a good open view of what this is, quote unquote, and you know who these people persons are, and they're just like you, they just believe something else, you know what I mean? And I think all in all, the whole picture of the community would do well with that type of center.
You know, I just called you what a few minutes ago and said, "Hey, do an interview, no backstory." And you are one of the smartest people I know, and everything. And I just love the way you articulate things, and you bring out points and valid points, because you do this work, you're a part of it, and
Yeah.
it's just thank you for being you.
Oh,
Just being
thank
you.
you. And I mean, think about how much persons don't get to hear that, you know, just being as an LGBT person, like, thank you for being you.
Yes.
Like, a lot of persons wish they could hear that. Thank you for being just you, as you are, how you are. Just thank you for being you.
There's nothing
And
wrong with you.
there's nothing
You're
wrong with
beautiful
you.
and perfect and smart and clever, and there's nothing bad about you as you are. And that is so true. That is so true. I have so many people who I've seen in my life that they got the wrong type of message. And just hearing those words is invaluable, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely would be a step towards making that type of inclusive community that gets those type of things said more often. You know, thank you for being you. I acknowledge the issues you go through on a daily basis. Don't let it second guess your choices. Or,
Mm.
you know, because I imagine that's a thing too. Like, I came out and I lost my job, or I came out and I lost these friends, and here I am in isolation, where when I was living a lie, a well-dressed lie at that, things were working for me, you know. So there's just so much I could think about, to be honest, as to the benefits that it would bring, you know. And what's the, if it only helps one person, definitely doing its job. If it only helps two persons, it's helping its job. And I'm sure in Bergen County, I live with persons who are gay, you know what I mean, and have their own struggles, and I've seen it up close. So I know for a fact, you know, even as an alma mater of Fairleigh Dickinson University, we have a spectrum group on campus, and I've seen their struggles just being viewed as a legitimate group on campus, you know what I mean? Having a ball, needing a budget, stuff like this, and fighting a cause that there are some persons who don't feel like there's a cause for them to fight.
Mhm.
So even in that, I could see the resource center just giving legitimacy to this group of persons, as this is me, I'm a part of this group, and these are the issues that we face, and how that would spill over in our schools, BCC, stuff like that. Maybe there will be, maybe things like that will push that type of move in our institutions and create some multi-level change,
Yeah.
you know?
So you're a big thinker. You see the big picture, and you know how things work. And like I said, you're one of the smartest people I know. And I'm not joking. This is not flattery. This is just truth, right? So, excuse me. What do you think? Outside of people will say, "Oh, it's homophobia, and it's just older people and stuff like that." Why do you think there isn't a center here? Like, what are some possible reasons why they don't have one here?
Um, I would say foundationally, like on the bottom line of it, just a misunderstanding of what inclusion actually is when you move it from a concept to a way of life. Um, I think that's the biggest issue that I see sometimes, where you have persons who conceptually understand inclusivity and it's something that they want to push, but don't know how to push that in an everyday life, and the way how that matriculates in culture, the things you say. Like, you can't, like for instance, just the opportunity. Like, I was very confused about they them pronouns, for instance, right? And that's something that means a lot to people, to be identified as to what they want to be identified as. Like, there's just so much around it that could be known, you know what I mean? But people do fear the unknown. You know, change happens slowly, especially administrative and legislative change. Um, so I wouldn't even say if you made more laws and so then it would work, because it's all in the people, right? And I think from a community approach, going towards a center and really trying to work community up is where those laws are going to change, because the people, the majority, you know what I mean, the constituency needs to also be on that same. So I figure if it's not in Bergen County, it's because the attitudes and the culture of the people haven't progressed there for it to be for there to be a center, you know. So once we finalize that, or deal with the issue of like just giving legitimacy to the issue and understanding exactly what inclusiveness is supposed to mean when you live it, then there would be a center, I'm sure.
Yeah. And it's funny. I thank you for expressing that, because I'm witnessing that there's a real disconnect between the perceived what is the need and then what is actually needed. And so the people that are in positions of providing services, they're like, okay, so you need bathrooms for everyone, and this, and job done. It's all solved. Yay, great. you know.
Yeah, I mean, even the bathroom issue, right? Uh, it's amazing. It's amazing. Like, say we had a male, female, and a gender neutral bathroom. I don't see who that's making upset. If having somebody who's transgender come use your bathroom makes you uncomfortable, you use the female slash the male only one. And then you just have an option for people who really don't care and want to be able to use whatever it is that they're using.
Yeah.
Like, people just sometimes really can't get over their own discomfort, and have issues thinking that their personal issue is any less or more than the issue of the person in front of them. Like, they need to be able to see both issues as equal.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember, people talking about this a long time. Having before it became a big mainstream issue, talking about bathrooms. And it was always perceived men are disgusting and pigs and all this kind of stuff, and you don't want them using women's bathroom. And I'm like, I was like, hey, I've worked jobs where I clean both bathrooms, beg to differ,
Equally clean, equally dirty, I'm sure.
But,
and even that, you're hinging your concern on a pre-existing stereotype of how men act as well.
Yeah.
So you're basically saying you live in stereotypes.
But then I started thinking, like, I'm sure you heard this, but it's like, what do you do in your house? Do you tell people to go use that bathroom, not this one?
Right.
The bathroom, damn it, just let them use it.
Right.
Well, I lost. There you are. There you go. All right. So this is your platform, and before we close up, I just wanted to offer you anything else you want might pop up in your head that you want to mention, or if not, this is fine. This is amazing what you've given us.
The only thing I would say is that I think the LGBTQ community has a peculiar journey ahead and a fight, because I think it's going to be compared to a lot of other, as I said, like minority issues and how they've been dealt with in the past. And I mean, look at how the country deals with race, even though that's supposed to not be an issue. So I would just say patience, not even patience, because you want to be like, I definitely believe in the revolution, but just keeping on to the hope that the way things are today are not how they're going to be tomorrow, and things do get better, and there are persons that, are just a part, have always been a part of this fight, that can attest to all these changes and stuff like that. So, and it's coming from me. I grew up Jamaican. I grew up in a very restrictive community and culture in general, and I'm glad that I've been able to leave home and test some of my pre-existing ideas about how the world works and what right and wrong is, and I just encourage people to actually test that themselves. You know what I mean? A lot of us just go on in our daily basis, our daily lives, living off of concepts and ideas that we've accepted to be true, that we've never actually tested in ourselves. And it just takes a little bit of camaraderie, valuing and prioritizing those type of things, as opposed to the need to be right, the need to have this specific order. Like, But I'm hopeful. I'm definitely
Yeah.
hopeful that one day we won't even be having this conversation and that it'll be in books, history books and stuff like that. Because that's even another thing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
I'm hopeful, and I really hope that one day we really will have a resource center that I can visit myself as an ally and give any service that I can give to.
Well, if we do get a resource center up here anytime soon, you know you're going to be a part of it because I'll be I'll be knocking on your door. Oh,
I
here
hope so. I do hope so.
it is. So before we end, I just want to make sure that you're aware that this will eventually live in a public space, what I
Mhm.
record here, and also to let you know that at any given time, if you feel the need and say, "Hey, I want this put down," no excuses, anything. I'll take it down. Just allow me some time to do so. And
Sure.
yeah, that's and just asking, do you feel okay with what everything that you said? Mm,
Yes,
yeah.
definitely. And I would say it again on any stage, in any context. And I appreciate the work that you're doing and what's trying to happen, even with anything. I am a big person for social causes, and that's really why I became a grant writer to try and help to solve the world's problems where funding is needed.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel okay. I love to be allies and advocates for persons who I feel like maybe not have a voice of their own. So yeah, I'm perfectly okay with everything I said today, and I would shout it from the mountaintops for anybody to hear.
Thank you so much. And thank you for
No
being.
problem.
I'm going to end the recording now.
Okay.